She conquered the richest lands of the Roman East, was hunted down by cavalry at the edge of a dark river, and then the record of her life abruptly fractures. We know how she rose, but historians have never agreed on how her story ended. To understand her rise, we have to look at the city she ruled. Palmyra was known as the Pearl of the Desert. It sat isolated in the barren landscape of Syria, a sprawling metropolis of marble and stone surrounded by hundreds of miles of hostile sand. In the 3rd century, the Roman Empire was fractured. Civil wars tore the legions apart from within, while the Persian Sassanid Empire battered their eastern borders. Palmyra capitalized on this instability. Because it controlled the only secure route through the desert, the city taxed every single camel that passed through its gates, carrying silk, spices, and Persian gold between east and west. The brutal geography that should have isolated Palmyra is exactly what made it wealthy. As Rome faltered, this desert oasis grew into an independent economic powerhouse precisely when the empire was too weak to intervene. The city's military strength peaked under King Odaenathus. He gathered a desert army, pushed the invading Persians out of the Roman East, and was rewarded by the emperor with sweeping authority over the entire region. His wife, Zenobia, was an active partner in this reign. Ancient accounts describe her as an intellectual fluent in multiple languages, deeply educated in philosophy, and a resilient horsewoman who rode into the desert alongside her troops. In the year 267, Odaenathus and his eldest son were assassinated during a royal banquet by a relative named Myonius. Historians still debate the true motive behind the assassination. Some ancient writers circulated rumors that Zenobia herself organized the murder to ensure her own son would inherit the throne, though physical evidence of a conspiracy remains elusive. Whoever pulled the strings, the outcome was immediate. A young widow was now the sole commander of the most heavily armed and vital defense line in the Roman East. Zenobia recognized that relying on a fractured Roman government was a vulnerability. She moved quickly to secure the absolute loyalty of the Palmyrene army under her top general, Zenobia. In 270, she launched a military campaign, sending tens of thousands of soldiers marching across the desert to invade Roman territory. Her target was Egypt, the wealthiest province in the region and the undisputed agricultural anchor of the Mediterranean. This map shows the traditional flow of grain from Egypt across the Mediterranean to Rome. By capturing these trade routes, Zenobia effectively held the food supply of the Roman civilian population hostage. To pacify her newly conquered subjects, she employed psychological warfare. She claimed direct ancestral descent from Cleopatra, framing herself as a legitimate ruler to the Egyptian people, rather than a foreign invader. This map highlights the territorial extent of her reach. Palmyrene forces rapidly pushed north into Anatolia, seizing control of vital Roman trade routes across modern-day Turkey. In a matter of months, Zenobia escalated from a local desert regent to an imperial conqueror, stripping the Roman Empire of its economic lifelines. With her territory secured, Zenobia took the ultimate political step. She began minting her own regional currency, stamping the coins with imperial titles for herself and her young son. Printing coins that named her son Augustus was an unforgivable provocation. It was a direct declaration of independence and war against Rome. By this time, the Roman throne had been claimed by Emperor Aurelian. A brutal, battle-hardened tactician, he stabilized the Western Empire just enough to turn his military machine east. The two massive armies finally collided in the dust-choked plains of Syria, fighting two engagements at the battles of Imei and Emesa. Zenobia's forces fought with desperate courage to hold their ground, but they were ultimately overwhelmed by the disciplined superiority of veteran Roman legions. Her army was routed. Forced to abandon her newly conquered territories, the queen retreated back across the sand, taking shelter behind the fortified walls of Palmyra. Her economic and political calculations had finally collided with the harsh, immovable reality of Roman military discipline. Aurelian's forces surrounded the desert oasis, laying a siege to the city and cutting off all supply lines to the inhabitants trapped inside. Seeing her supplies dwindling, Zenobia attempted a final, desperate gambit. In the dead of night, she slipped out of the city on a fast dromedary to ride east, hoping to beg for reinforcements from the Persian Empire. She almost made it. But Roman cavalry intercepted the fleeing queen, capturing her right at the banks of the river before she could cross to safety. The news of her capture broke the city. Without their visionary leader, Palmyra surrendered and the desert empire collapsed. Once Zenobia was taken prisoner, the historical record fractures. Ancient writers left behind contradictory accounts of her final days. One version of the story claims she refused to be paraded as a Roman trophy, either starving herself to death or dying of illness on the journey back to Europe. Another account states she was marched through Rome in golden chains, weighed down by her own jewels, but was ultimately spared and given a quiet Roman villa. These contradictions reflect the competing needs of the Roman writers who survived her. To some, Zenobia had to be a formidable monster to make the emperor's victory look more impressive. To others, she had to be shown as a submissive captive to prove that Roman authority had been restored. Aurelian eventually returned to burn her city to dust, yet the physical ruins of Palmyra still mark the scale of what she built. Rome reclaimed the territory, but they could never fully reconcile the various versions of the woman who nearly replaced them in the East.